In the center of the crystal is the flame of living truth. I am come to adorn the children of the Mother with the jade of healing love, with the science of truth that is the alchemy for change in mater. Mankind have reached a point in evolution when nothing else will suffice except the healing ray of crystal and emerald, of jade and of ruby, the ray of the Christ, released through the chakras of heart and head and hand, released through the secret ray chakras of mighty cosmos. We look from our temple in China, a temple all of jade, precipitated from the heart of the Divine Mother eons ago for the enshrining of her flame of healing love. When I speak of healing, I speak of healing love, for it is by love that healing must come forth. Love that begins with forgiveness and whose spiral is fulfilled in the alchemy of perfection in the will of God. Mankind have reached that point of evolution when, even though they invoke the violet flame, certain conditions of the subconscious, etheric patterns, mental aberrations, derangement in the structure of the brain caused by the taking in of harmful drugs, substances foreign to the soul, when the wedges of darkness, the splinters of darkness, the schism in the emotional body, and the chronic diseases in the physical require the touch of the healing light of Mother. The healing ray must intensify. It is the emerald action that draws the molecular structure of being etheric, being mental, being emotional, and being physical into alignment with the inner blueprint. The fifth ray of science and healing love has been trampled upon, has been covered over with misconceptions and misplaced faith, faith in matter devoid of spirit. Matter is only the cup of spirit, and unless the cup be filled with spirit, matter is incomplete. Therefore, chemistry alone cannot convey healing. But chemistry endowed with love may convey a certain aspect of healing in the physical temple. We probe for the chemistry of the mind. We probe for the chemistry of the healing light of love. We watch as the chemistry of the interaction of the law transforms the desire body. We watch how souls filled with a healing ray are transformed. We watch how naught else can satisfy or sustain the soul's yearning for the return to the Immaculate Conception. What else but healing love can restore the sinful sense to the holy innocence, that inner sense of purity and immaculate love? mankind without the healing light of Mary and of Raphael, of the healing masters Hilarion and the CHOHAN, the comforting one, without these energies, have in many cases little hope for the restoration of the withered hand, the blinded eye, the burdened heart, old age, and all forms of impediment to the flow of the light. And therefore, without the healing ray, many among mankind must wait until the breaking of the pattern of this mortal round, until the next incarnation to have the perfect form, the perfect mind and heart, the perfect consciousness manifest here and now. And what of the bodies maimed by atomic holocaust, or by the cruelty of the mind? And what of the little children who suffer from the demons of the night and the cruelty of unwise sowings of parents and teachers? What of those who are scarred from the battlefields of the world and the battle of Armageddon? Shall we leave them comfortless? Christ did not. We shall not. We come in the flame of Jesus. And we too know the law of karma, that in many cities he did not many works there, and in some none at all, for the perverseness of their degeneration, replacing what ought to have been the regenerative consciousness. We understand the lords of karma and the law of karma, and therefore the impartation of healing must come because the soul has passed certain initiations, has received the light of love and retained that love. Love as flow, love as harmony, love as fulfillment of the law, as above, so below. And therefore, when we place our hands, when we place the hands of the Mother upon the sick, upon those who come for healing in the way, we release exactly the momentum of light ordained by the Christ self of that one, by the I Am presence and the lords of karma. God's consciousness is wholly accurate, precious ones, and therefore, as it is given to you according to your karma, and karma as opportunity, so the ray of healing is passed to you. And when the Mother releases that light, she also senses the beginning of the radiation and the ending. Suddenly it begins and suddenly it ends. And if she is not quick to place her hands upon the supplicant, the radiation will begin already before the hands are placed. And so you see that it is not the will of the consciousness of the instrument, but it is that the instrument has made itself a crystal chalice for the flow of the divine light. Understand then that in this activity of the Great White Brotherhood, you are given ultimate responsibility to heal yourself and to prepare your chalice for the light of healing love. And therefore, as you saturate your four lower bodies with the violet flame and the will of God, as you exorcise from the temple of being by the authority of the Christ, the invaders, the intruders, the foreigners, as you do all that you know how to do in the clearing of the chakras, in the giving of the Hail Mary, which is the salutation to the fount of purity, which culminates in healing in the four lower bodies. As you do all these things that you have been taught, you prepare yourself for the transfer of the healing thought form from the heart of the Mother, for the secret rays and the action of the fifth ray, and the transfer which is given to you is not alone for the healing of physical symptoms, for they are just that. They are symptoms of malaise in the soul, symptoms of disruption in the flow of light in the body, symptoms of deeply embedded hurts, scars in the subconscious of the etheric. And therefore, with the transfer of this holy light, this holy energy which you will receive this night, understand that of far greater import to the lords of karma and to your own Christ self is the healing of the etheric body. For the etheric body is the habitation of the soul, and long after your physical form passes away and the envelope of the mental body and the feeling body disintegrate by the decay rate that is the law of the disintegration of this cycle. Long after this, you will be abiding in your etheric body, and you will be uncomfortable in that body if there are records there of all manner of disturbances and discomforts and experiences that you have had through your mind, your feelings, and your physical form. And therefore we look beyond this life, so short, so tenuous. We look at the soul's evolution in the temples of light, in the etheric plane. We would not have you come to our retreat at etheric levels, between incarnations, maimed and halt and blind in your etheric vehicle, so burdened by records of infamy that you can scarcely behold the Master who is standing on the platform for the mist and the density that surrounds your very consciousness. We would not have you pass and remain in the astral plane, in that purgatory, that waiting period, until you have lived over and over again the scenes of horror and disgrace from your earthly life. It is these momentums that we would heal, and we would rather, if the lords of karma dictate, that you suffer a little inconvenience in your physical form while you are here, a little discomfort, a little thorn in the flesh, which even the Apostle Paul was not able to be rid of. Even though he asked the Lord Christ, the Lord did not deliver him of this thorn. For you see, he was balancing karma. And because he balanced that karma, he was able to rise into a purified etheric body and then take final incarnation as that sage Hilarion and be a focus of healing light to the multitudes who sought him in the desert and in the places where he went to be alone with God. And so God's wisdom concerning your life is far greater than you own, far greater than you know. It is a wisdom that is for the atoning of all lesser manifestations, that you might have what Jesus has called a better resurrection. And when all is said and done, and you see the perspective of a little pain sprinkled with a little pleasure as the result of an earthly life, you will say to yourself, I am glad for the suffering God allowed me to bear, for the balancing not only of my personal karma, but also of planetary karma. And you will be glad when you see exactly how more perfectly formed the etheric body is. And understand, precious ones, there is the higher etheric body and the lower etheric body, and the higher body is the blueprint of life everlasting, but the lower etheric body contains all of these records. And therefore, as you seek the challenge of initiation on each of the 7 rays, I come to greet you with the challenges of initiation on the 5th ray. It is time then for many of you to receive an increment of light which you could not otherwise receive except it pass through a member of hierarchy embodied. For you understand that the stepping down of the currents of light must occur through the chakras of someone who is in incarnation, until you yourself can raise the frequencies of your chakras by God's grace in the Christ consciousness to that level where you can contain fountains of healing light. And therefore we rejoice that we are able to convey to you that increment of healing light which will begin cycling in this hour of Capricorn appearing through your etheric body for the healing of certain conditions and records that are very deep within the subconscious. Conditions of which many of you would be totally unaware, and yet you may be suffering in the outer from a manifestation that is related to that inner record. A twitching nerve, a nervousness, a lisp, a stutter, pains here and there that are unexplained, all sorts of manifestations and impediments that mankind learn to live with. One by one these come from the etheric records that contain all of the life expressions of every living soul. Therefore, we would begin at the beginning with a fullness of the science of healing love. We would have you purified from above. We would have you manifest here below the sacred glow of the angel Deva of the Jade Temple. Understand then that whereas all will receive a portion of the healing light, not all will see an immediate manifestation in the physical. Take care then that you do not search for physical signs as proof of healing. This is how the discarnates fool the silly women and their husbands who gather and who seek for a sign. And is it not written that a wicked and an adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given except the sign of the prophet Jonas? Understand then that the ascended masters do not need to prove the law by signs and miracles and wonders and precipitations and all manner of psychic phenomena. Do you not understand that the ascended masters are living proof of the science of truth, and they convey by the electrodes of their consciousness that radiation which is unmistakable to the disciple on the path, that rejuvenation, that regeneration. The sign of healing is the healed consciousness. It is the transformation of hatred into love, of sorrow into joy. It is the countenance alight with love for God. It is the sparkle in the eye. It is working the works of God and serving humbly, adoringly, serving selflessly with the sweet surrender of love. Signs of healing, then, are not our preference, but the healing of the inner man, the preparation of the inner man for the initiations that must come on the path. We will not remove your burdens, for by your burdens you learn the way of overcoming. You learn to stretch the sinews of the mind. You learn to invoke the flame. You learn to intensify God action and be self-mastery where you are. But when you have increased the light by a certain action of the law, over a period perhaps of weeks or months of years, and you come to the place where you feel that over this period of time you have made very little progress, in fact, none at all. In fact, you say to yourself, certainly I am backsliding. you will find that all that you have given in invocations and decrees and service has been for the building of a momentum whereby God could touch you in that very place where there is the greatest need of healing. And the hand of your presence and your Christ self, the hand of the ascended masters, and the release of that light will surely come, because it is law that the call compels the answer. And God will give the answer many times of the healing in the subconscious, and your only awareness of the effect of that healing will be peace, the sense of peace, the sense of well-being, the sense of contentment and knowing that all is well with God, all is well with you, and you are hid in the hollow of his hand, you are sealed in the mantle of his consciousness. Indeed, you are hid with Christ in God. And that is all that matters, that is all that you need to know. We have seen with such rejoicing Chelas on the path who have remained steadfast, who at first have resisted the action of decrees. And of course we know, for we see that it is not the soul resisting the action, but the carnal mind that has everything to lose and nothing to gain. We see that it is the agitation of the discarnates that are feeding of the light of that soul as vultures. We see then how these Chelas have determined by obedience to give their invocations, how they have become the bright, the shining ones. They have stripped themselves by the action of decrees. God has stripped them through the action of decrees of all manner of substance and filth and scum of the world and of their own consciousness. We have seen them free themselves layer by layer by the calls to the Elohim Astrea. We have seen these blessed souls never tiring in application to that blessed Elohim of purity's ray. And we have seen the violet flame bathe and cleanse and purify. We have seen them rise, and then one day we have seen the keeper of the scrolls and the angel of the keeper release a scroll tied with a green ribbon and sent to the healing angels. And when the healing angels of the various bands of the healing masters receive that scroll from the keeper of the scrolls tied with a green ribbon, they know that a devotee on the path on Terra is about to receive an increment of healing light. With delight and the fluttering of wings and excitement and joy, they untie carefully the green bow, and they open the scroll and they read the name of the one who is to receive that day the increment of healing light. And so they make their way to the blessed house, and they come in the spirit of Mare, the cosmic virgin, and they find that one steadfast in the calling, in the invocations, and therefore that one in the process of giving the Hail Mary with devotion, with attunement, entering into the consciousness of the Mother and the Holy Spirit and the light of the Buddha, is in a posture to receive an added impetus of light. And therefore that precious disciple is aware of an extraordinary spiritual experience. Not one that comes every day, but one that comes just often enough to let the disciple know that God is love. And so with the infusion of light, the added light of the dispensation, there is the healing within, there is the joy without. Content in the divine blueprint, the disciple moves on and continues to keep on keeping on. As you have heard the word of the Mother, no matter what the obstacle, no matter what is placed before your path, no matter who tugs upon your garment with a scheme, or with an involvement, or with just one more indulgence of the senses. Keep moving toward the sun, moving toward the sun. Keep walking the right and the left with rayolight. Keep moving toward the sun, and then none will keep you, none will delay you. The dust will not collect upon your garments or your sandals or upon your staff. Keep on the upward spiral until you reach your home at last. I am the angel Deva. I stand before you in a very great stature, for the Devas are angelic beings who serve with the elemental kingdom. My service then is with the elementals who are the builders of the jade and the matrix of the jade. Their devotion is very great to the healing angels who guide them in their service as they create in the heart of the earth and in the rock the substance of jade that contains that molecular structure sufficient for the transfer of the healing light. And so the focus of the mother was placed in the land of Chin, for this people beloved of the mother had earned in previous eras the right to have, bless their soil, that healing presence. And so I stand before you, one who works with millions of elementals, teaching them how to blend their energies with the angelic hosts, serving in cooperation for the benefit of mankind, for the balance of the forces of nature, for the healing of the elementals themselves, for the healing of the embodied angels, and for the healing of precious mankind. Gautama Buddha is the sponsor of our retreat, and enshrined in sacred altar, carved from the very heart of the rock, the heart of the earth that is jade itself, is a large statue of the Lord of the world, Gautama Buddha. And through this particular statue of Gautama, there is the radiation of the healing light of the Buddha. You would do well to invoke the light of the statue of Buddha, of the jade, when you are calling for healing for yourselves, your loved ones, and for the multitudes. For beloved Gautama anchors here a truly miraculous light. And when I use the word miraculous or miracle, I understand that every miracle is the fulfillment of the law of cause and effect, the law of mathematics, the law of the flow of cosmic energy. Now the moment has come. I have engaged your energies by engaging your attention, and you have freely, lovingly given to me the arc of the flow of your attention. And over that arc then, the contact is made, and I can release to you the flow of healing love. I will release it to you personally, each one, through the hand of the mother, that you might know that hierarchy must have this instrument, that hierarchy has ordained this instrument, and therefore, in acknowledging the instrument, you retain the humility that hierarchy desires you to retain. You see, precious ones, when the individual is a law unto himself, sufficient unto himself, declaring that he has no need for brother or sister on the way, for teacher or master, for disciple or father or mother, then he becomes with the proud and the ambitious. Pray to the fallen ones. But in the day that you must acknowledge that you need a friend, in that day that you realize that you are dependent upon other parts of life for that which you are to become in God, in that day you will find the consummation, the consuming action of the pride of the ego that is necessary. Remember Naaman, remember the one whom the prophet instructed to dip himself 7 times in the river Jordan. And he said, why is not another river good enough? And why should I dip here? Why does the prophet not come forth with fanfare from his house? He sends only his servant. I am more important. He should come to me and salute me, and with great pomp and ceremony pronounce the healing. And so you see, precious ones, when you can accept the servant of the prophet in humility, then you receive the reward of the prophet. When you receive the messenger of the masters, you receive the reward of the masters themselves. And so, to be a comforter to life, you must acknowledge your own need to be comforted. There are many who would give, but are too proud to receive. And this is not the balance of flow. And therefore, you must acknowledge your need for one another, for your light, your rejoicing, the virtues that you each enshrine individually. You must acknowledge your need for the masters and for the teaching. But if you fail to acknowledge your need for the messenger and for the structure of the organization that surrounds the messenger, then you see you have admitted the folly of your own pride, making yourself a law unto yourself, sufficient unto yourself alone. You are removed from the line of climbers to the summit of being. And those who hold on to the ropes and take their pick and their axe in hand, climbing carefully and following the guide, these will surely arrive at the summit. But the one who exempts himself from hierarchy is the one who, bereft of the contact, does not arrive at the summit, but is cast along the way, for the forces are too great that oppose the soul. And the forces that oppose the soul are entirely from within. And therefore, acknowledge your need to be comforted in the Holy Spirit and to give that comfort flow. In this perfect balance, receiving in the left hand, giving in the right, you will find your rightful place in hierarchy. Hierarchy desires to include you as a point of contact for Alpha and Omega. Hierarchy is systematic. Hierarchy knows where you ought to be, where you are now, and where you are going. And therefore we come systematically preparing each one step by step. In each and every conference, we have the roster of all who have ever attended a conference and all who have received the invitation or the announcement of the conference. And we go to the keeper of the scrolls, and there is released a scroll stating what opportunities and initiations are available to each disciple on the way through the dictations and the blessings and the initiations given at that conference. First and foremost, the initiation of getting to the conference is important, for if the chelas do not arrive, they do not receive the direct contact, and if they were not able to overcome the opposition to their attendance, then that shows that they are not ready to receive the next increment of light. I assure you that without fail, each devotee who attends each conference is given the opportunity for the next step of initiation. Initiation is not a violent action. It is not abrupt. It is a flow. It is not a sudden staircase. It is a spiral. A spiral you can walk, a spiral that enables you to rise day by day, to ascend daily, as Paul said, I die daily. So the chelas ascend daily as they die unto the senses of this world. And so we have with us also the scroll for each one of you who is here, each one without exception, and it is written thereon what increment of light you are able to receive in which of your chakras in each of the dictations that are given. Do you wonder at the complexity of heaven? Be at peace. All is in reality the simplicity of the one. And there is only the one God, the one love, and the one truth. And this ineffable light, this flaming flame that will not be quenched, contains within itself all of the vastness, all of the detail, all of the wonder that makes the comfort of the Holy Spirit available to each one, intimately, intricately, not neglecting a hair on your head, a cell or an atom of your 4 lower bodies. This is the tenderness of the love, of the care of the one God for you, each living soul. Understand then that initiation is ongoing. Initiation is the application of the law. It is participation in the conferences which are for the turning of the cycles of planetary as well as personal cycles. And therefore, see then that when you participate in the conference, you become a carrier of the light that is for the initiation of the evolutions and the life waves of Terra. Understand then that it is important to be at the right place, at the right time, for the right dispensations to occur. I have come then, and I will give my blessing to those who are here. I can only convey this blessing in person, in the physical, tangible transference through the hand, the heart, the chakras of the mother. You will understand then that much as we would like to make this transferable, we cannot, for the law is the law. You are welcome to bring your children awake or asleep to this force field for the transfer of the light that is due them. And I say due, for they have made themselves worthy in previous incarnations to be among you. And their souls, even as they are out of the body in sleep, are anticipating with joy the moment when they will feel the touch of the jade of the angel Deva of the Jade Temple. I am with you always in the light of healing love. Be willing to invoke this light of healing through your messengers, through the messenger ascended and the messenger unascended. Be not afraid to call to the Christ self of your messengers to come to you where you are, for they have the dispensation of being anywhere and everywhere that they are called, and given the authority of the students who invoke their electronic presence. This is the aspect of the mission of the 2 witnesses that must be fulfilled in this age. and many among the keepers of the flame have seen them in the way, and in their rooms, and in temples of light. This is not unusual, it is the fulfillment of the law. For the messengers even now are ministering to the needs of all mankind one by one. As Christ multiplied the loaves and the fishes for the feeding of the 5,000, so the Christ in your messengers is able to multiply the Christ consciousness for the nourishment of souls throughout Terra. And this is the gift of hierarchy which every ascended master and certain of the saints have possessed prior to their ascension. Do not wonder then at the gift of the miracles and of the healing love of the messengers, for this is the fulfillment of the light of the Holy Spirit and of the cloven tongues of fire that descend through them for the transformation of Terra in the light of healing love. I am with you, the angel Deva of the Jade Temple.